Hey guys, welcome to our Joker watch along. Very happy to have all of you here. Apologize, we're a few minutes late, but we are ready to roll, ready to discuss, have some fun with you tonight. I am lucky enough to have two fantastic guests to debate with throughout this, to chat, to have fun with, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves here, and we are going to go over to Elliot first. And if I can work this appropriately, oh no.
I'm not
going to Casual Moviegoer first.
All right, so I'm not Elliot, but I'm Casual Moviegoer. All right, so I just go on the riff. Yeah, so pretty much, if anyone is in the cinephile community, I've been in there for a bit now, and yeah, I'm known as the Casual Moviegoer, and my specialty are 60-second movie reviews. So if anyone has seen them, they'll probably know that I have way too much energy for my own good. Love to throw my hands around, love to talk really fast. But at the end of the day, I just love movies. And if you are in the same boat and you want to see some video reviews that are under 60 seconds, then please give me a follow.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Casual Moviegoer is the energetic man of Instagram with his reviews. So you'll definitely see him around. But the other man that you'll probably see around, and especially on a lot of these watch-alongs with me recently and in the future, is Elliot, Mr. Movie Files. So passing it along to you, sir.
Hey, what's going on, man? I'm excited to watch The Joker tonight. This is third viewing, I believe. Very excited to break it down and discuss it with you all tonight. But yeah, I'm Elliot from Movie Files. I am on Instagram. That's how I met Joe. We had a great conversation on his quarantine conversations on his Instagram, and I also have a YouTube channel. So on my YouTube channel, I review a little bit of everything, whether it be the big blockbuster films, which we don't have and haven't had in a while at the theater, but I also review a lot of the independent film, genre films, horror, comedy, Netflix, Amazon, anything you could think of, I review it, and I love to discuss it with you all. So definitely check me out on Instagram, but as well as on my YouTube channel. So very excited to be here tonight and talk about The Joker.
Excellent. And we are going to get started in just a minute. But for those of you that are on here and those of you that will be popping on, going in and out, I'm sure we will be giving away a Blu-ray copy of Joker tonight. So there will be a little quiz question later on. And once you, if the first person to answer is going to get the copy of it. So nice. We will have some fun with that. But right now, why don't we get started with the movie? And if everyone's ready, you guys ready?
Yeah, ready.
All right. 3, 2, 1, hit it. Does it want to hit on my end? It didn't start on my end. Hold on, I'll jump in. Okay, I'm having play issues. Let's pause and rewind this.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm not quite sure what's going on. Hold on 1 second. Technology, you know.
Are you streaming it?
I have it downloaded on my iPad.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But you know,
quick plug, guys. That's why physical media is important. I'm watching on my old school Blu-ray player in my bedroom, so hopefully these bad boys will go anywhere anytime soon because I love collecting Blu-rays.
Oh man, there's just something about the physical feeling of having a disc.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Man.
All right, there. Well, I am failing on this right now. Hold on one second. So, guys, how many times have you seen this so far?
One.
Okay.
Yeah, this is so started at the theater, and then once I bought it when it came out in January, and then I actually had to watch along for it about a month and a half ago. So this will be my fourth time seeing the Joker. Yeah, and every time I've seen it, picking out little nuances, little details, and just love the performance by Joaquin Phoenix, which we'll obviously talk about while we start this movie.
Yes, sir. You are a man that watches movies like over and over again. When you were talking about Solo and the number of times you watch that.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's because especially now with working from home, but even before then, even when we weren't self-quarantine, I worked from home a lot. So, sometimes I casually play a movie in the background or like to revisit certain scenes and certain performances. So yeah, I watch a lot of stuff, but I also do a lot of the replay stuff too. So especially if I like the film.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, I am finally ready to go. Cool. Technology is now my friend again. All right. 3, 2, 1, hit it. I remember just being like so shocked by this movie when I saw it in theaters for the first time. Like I was not expecting it to be how it was.
Well, it was so interesting too going into this film, the hype around it, right? In regards to just the media
Violence.
surrounded it, and I don't know how you guys' theatrical experience was, but it was the first time I've ever been to a opening night movie where there were policemen, suited up with all their stuff geared up. It was just crazy how they hyped that film up, and obviously thankfully nothing bad came out of it in regards to screenings. But it was a very interesting film, very polarized film last year.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, I think capitalizing on a lot of what was going on, especially in the U.S. at the time with some of the mass shootings from last year. Just the timing just didn't create the best marketability for it.
Mm-hmm. Which ended up, luckily it didn't hurt the box office, right? And I'm sure we'll talk about it in regards to just the amount of money this movie was able to obtain in its theatrical run, which is still baffles me today.
Yeah, definitely. And a really funny comment here from Miki that Frozen 2 caused more violence than the Joker.
Yeah, it was like a big old teenage. I remember that. Yeah, I can't remember where it was exactly, but I remember hearing that story and just that's the movie that creates a riot at the theater.
Right. That's the one that's going to get everyone up in arms.
Right.
What the biggest
Tony says he wasn't shocked. A knife fight broke out. That was with Frozen, but Tony said he wasn't shocked since it was a Phoenix performance.
Yeah.
Guess that Tony, are you saying in regards to how well the movie did? What'd you guys think of Joaquin in this movie?
He brought his A game, man. Like, I do feel like Joaquin should have won an Oscar a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's for this movie, you know what? Hell yeah, he knocked it out of the park. Like it's even just less about his performances, just like the physical composition.
Like technology is not our friend. Nope, there we go. You're still here.
You good? Can you hear me?
Elliot, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you guys. Yep.
Excellent.
Everyone, yeah.
Casual be in and out. There we go.
Can you hear me?
We got you.
I hear you.
Yeah. Turn down your screen just a little bit too, because we can hear your movie.
Oh no!
It's like surround sound.
It's on my laptop, so the speakers are like right next to
me. Oh, gotcha.
Like circulating. But yeah, I was pretty much saying the thing that bothered me the most about the whole negative reaction around Joker is just like the idea that it is the only cause of violence. People aren't aware of all the Reddit boards and all the 4chan boards that are out there that are way, way, way more violent than Joker could ever be, and they're like actively radicalizing people.
Yep.
But then everyone tries to just pile on Joker because it's on a more mainstream level. Like it's just like a completely a missed target.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And then going back to your question too, Joe, with the just the performance, I thought, it was definitely deserving of the award that he got in regards to Best Actor, in my opinion, last year. And it's something about the Joker, man, that just brings out these performances. Minus maybe Jared Leto, who maybe didn't get the most opportunist time to display his acting abilities in that role. But yeah, man, I thought that he definitely brought his A game, and Casual Movie Reviewer was saying, he's well deserving of an award. I think he's been so fantastic throughout his whole career, even through his rapping days and all the stuff that he's went through in his career. I think that he's a phenomenal actor.
It's pretty interesting with you brought up Jared Leto. A lot of the conversation recently around the original Suicide Squad has been the director saying that some of the best performances from Leto were left on the cutting room floor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not quite sure why that would be, but
it's crazy. Yeah, the David Ayer cut is what people are kind of calling for it now, which it sucks. Obviously, I'm a big David Ayer fan. I think his last two films, unfortunately, from a quality standpoint, weren't up to par from End of Watch and what was his other film?
Right.
Fury with Shia LaBeouf and Brad Pitt. I thought those two films were fantastic, but with Bright and then Suicide Squad, his kind of not looking good. But I read somewhere he's apparently adapting a really popular novel for Netflix, so hopefully he can get back in the the good standings of the audience.
I'm very interested to see, and this is like diverting off to Suicide Squad world, but how James Gunn really takes that in a different direction, or what he does with it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I just hope it's not too much of a Guardians rehash, because I know there's a lot of the similar cast in there. Like I think Michael Rooker is in there.
He is.
Is Dave Bautista confirmed in there? I know he was in talks.
I think. Go ahead, Elliot.
No, I was going to say, I think I read rumors that that his name was being brought up, obviously with the relationship he has with James Gunn, but I don't think anything's been confirmed. But I can definitely see maybe like a cameo or something of that nature. But yeah,
I think they were also talking about him possibly being King Shark or whatever, who was like a heavily CGI'd dude. But then again, Taika Waititi's in it as well, so who knows, what he's going to be doing.
Yeah.
I always just assume like the craziest character is what Taika is going to be doing.
Yeah, right. Or in this movie, he's like the straight man in the film and business suit or whatnot. No, but I'm really looking forward to that. Especially, it's interesting to see what James Gunn does with the whole, with the rating, if it's a PG-13, rated R, because it seems like DC is allowing their creators to. I remember going back to David Ayer when Comic-Con hit and they premiered, which I still think to date, the Suicide Squad trailer was 20 times better than the movie. But I remember the whole conversation about David Ayer and Marvel versus DC. It was the whole pitch was DC allows their creators to make their content, which obviously wasn't necessarily the case with Zack Snyder and also David Ayer. But it seems like they're kind of getting back to that with new head running the company and people kind of being out of there that didn't really have faith in the director. So I'm hoping that they get back to that whole mantra where they let their creators put out their vision.
I don't know the last time that a studio interfered in a movie and made it better.
Yeah, or at least we don't hear about it,
right?
With the negative, but I mean, there's probably definitely because even with sticking with DC a little bit, but even Marvel, I remember one of the writers just had mentioned it was his first time working with Marvel that they're very hands on. Kevin Feige and all those executive producers are like extremely hands on, but they make it work. So it's always you hear about the negative publicity than you do with the studios coming in with the good stuff.
Yeah,
I would love to hear of a studio exec just come out and be like, guys, this movie was shit.
Right.
We have a comment here from Bearded Film Reviews. I love Reddit. It's practically my job. This is going back to the comment earlier. What else we got here? Incredible Hulk was screwed over by the studio. Which one?
Which one? The Marvel one or the Ang Lee one?
Yeah,
I think both probably.
Tony, thanks for stopping by, bud. We'll talk to you later on. I still think that the Incredible Hulk with Ed Norton wasn't a bad movie. Maybe I'm alone in that.
No. I agree with you. I think it's and I've said it before. I think there's like 2 or 3 Marvel films or a little bit more that I feel like they're good films. But then when you look at obviously the narrative of the whole connective tissue, I think like the Incredible Hulk and like Iron Man 2 and even 3 are kind of like I don't want to say standalone films, but they're not like to the cohesive MCU tie into everything. I think they kind of stand alone compared to everything else being so connected.
They were early on too,
Yeah, early phase. Yeah, definitely.
Are you guys big superhero like people, or is that like something that really excites you in the movies, or is it kind of just a necessary evil of seeing them?
And I can say for myself personally, I love superhero movies. I'm not well versed in comics enough. Like if something happens on screen, I can't be like I know what's happening there. But I grew up more on like superhero cartoons more than anything. So like X-Men animated series, X-Men Evolution, the old Spider-Man series, like all that kind of stuff. So definitely love superhero movies, and I definitely love that a lot of them are starting to get more free reign now. Like even just aside from DC, it looks like Marvel might be loosening up a little bit more in terms of like how far they can go, and I really want to see that more of that.
I agree with that. How about you, Elliot?
Yeah, no, same thing. I'm a big MCU fan, DC fan, and seeing obviously some of the other smaller titles, like you get a Kick-Ass in 2010, or even a Kingsman. So I'm a big fan of the genre. It's in the time we live in, it's just like the 80s and the 90s. They had the buddy cop films, they had the Arnold Schwarzenegger, Stallone films, and those are those films for us now. They come out so regularly, and they make a killing at the box office. I think too, as the Casual Movie Gore was talking about, it's now becoming where you're getting they have their own subgenres, a psychological thriller, horror, and some people ask with the Joker, Winter Soldier, psychological kind of espionage thriller. So, and then New Mutants, if that ever comes out, a horror film in the comic book hero realm. So I love that they're now starting to explore different aspects of the different genres and being successful at it.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a very good point. Every decade has their genre, the defining moment. Definitely 2010s to 2020 is hands down the superhero decade.
So the true question for any superhero conversation has to go towards the age-old DC or Marvel question. And, I'm not asking this from a movie standpoint, but in terms of the characters and kind of what you gravitate towards more, where do you stand with DC or Marvel? And Elliot, hit you first.
So I grew up, so I'm not a super big comic book fan, but I've done my fair share of, reading them when I was younger. And now, again, going back to the whole last decade, now looking into, they're making an Eternals film. Well, I'll go check out an Eternals comic book. So I'm now starting to get into the comics a little bit more. But in regards to just kind of growing up and where I still stand, for me, I still kind of personally connect more to the DC characters. They just seem a little bit more, first off, we're dealing with like gods, Superman and Wonder Woman and all the different fascinating characters. And I personally think too, DC has the better villains, if you ask me, outside of even the Joker. I think they just have just a stronger lineup of, rogues gallery. But that doesn't mean anything in regards to, I still love Marvel. I love, I'm a big Spider-Man fan, X-Men, as was brought up earlier. I love, this reign of Marvel in the movie realm. But in regards to just personal taste, I'm a big DC fan.
Nice.
I mean, my favorite superhero is Batman, so gotta stick with the DC.
Elliot, I do enjoy that you're like, I identify more with the DC characters. They're all gods.
Yeah, I love them. Wonder Woman, Superman, Flash, all of them, and even the obscure characters. You get, a whole. I mean, this is a bevy of characters that I love within the realm, and I'm loving that. One of these days, and it looks like DC is starting to get their act together in regards to the movie world. They've been killing it on TV. I think that's one thing a lot of people overlook. They've destroyed the TV realm compared to Marvel. And I know people love Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and obviously I love Daredevil and all that stuff. But as far as TV go, I think DC's been doing a great job. I'm just now hoping that the movies can be just as loved as a TV.
Cash, going to you on this one.
What's up?
Going to you with this question. DC or Marvel?
It's a hard one. I think I will have to go on the opposite side of the line and say Marvel, only because going back to I'm not a comic fan, so growing up with the shows, so I go back to the Spider-Mans and the X-Men's. There was Batman the Animated Series, which I watched a ton of, but I actually, the same reason Movie Files likes DC, I kind of don't like as much, because I feel like everyone is so larger than life.
Yeah,
I can't relate, like I have never really been a fan of Superman, because to me, I'm just like, what defeats you? A green rock? Is that really how we're gonna? Is that really how we're gonna just like untension and up? There we go. I know I'm in the minority in this one, but yeah, it's just I find sometimes they're a bit too overpowered.
Yeah,
and they kind of fall into the same tropes. Like I was talking about this with my friend the other night. So all the DC animated that have come out, like. Over the past couple of years.
Yep.
It seems like Superman has been brainwashed in every single one of those movies. That's all they can do at this point. It's like, well, he's too strong to beat, so let's just like turn him against everyone. So it's been like Brainiac has brainwashed him, Doomsday has brainwashed him, even Poison Ivy in Hush. He brainwashed him, and I'm like, come on. So that's why kind of for Marvel, I feel like the stories are a bit more relatable. Like Spider-Man is my favorite superhero because he was a teenager growing up, going through puberty at the same time as trying to be a superhero. It's stuff that's a bit more grounded.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely a DC person.
Yeah.
I grew up just liking them more. I never was a big comics reader either. I think that's something consistent that we're all saying really But I kind of agree with Elliot on the reasons too. I think the characters are more relatable to me just because I feel like the stories are more grounded in like human interaction and human emotion, even though you have characters from like, Atlantis and, Krypton and all that. But the stories that are told with them, I think, are very grounded.
No, I agree, and it even baffles me too. With the whole Superman conversation, how they news came out that they said Superman's not a relatable character, and I think there's a lot of relatability to that character, especially nowadays an alien coming from his own planet and coming to Earth, and the ramifications of that and how people perceive him is an interesting thing. And also Batman, obviously, like I said, my favorite superhero. Superhero. So yeah, I'm a big DC fan, but again, I love Marvel. I love Marvel as well.
Well, and what's interesting is I think that's the direction that Zack Snyder tried taking things in, was more of like the realism and telling real life stories, and that.
Got a frozen face here.
Maybe he's doing his best interpretation of Flash.
Yeah,
we're back. I just feel like they don't give their directors and their filmmakers enough time to really flesh stuff out, and they pull the plug too quickly.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's what kind of happened with the direction that we saw things going for a while. And of course, when you correct course in the middle of a film, you're going to have those issues.
Mm-hmm. And if I'm not mistaken, Joe, you're a big man. You like Man of Steel, right? You're not.
I love Man of Steel.
Okay, gotcha.
Definitely love Man of Steel. And I am a appreciator of Batman versus Superman for what it was trying to do.
Same here. Same here.
Yeah. No.
And I really enjoy the movie, quite honestly. I tell the story a lot, but I remember seeing that movie and walking out of the theater, and I was like, all right. It just, that kind of took the wind out of my sails. But I don't know. I enjoyed it. I don't think they should have done it as soon. But
yeah.
No, for sure. I'm definitely in the same boat. I wouldn't even say I'm an appreciator. I would say I really, really enjoyed Batman versus Superman. I remember after the movie was done, like that kind of the sequence of Wonder Woman discovering the files of all the other Justice League members. I remember it got me so hyped up, and after I went home, I was telling my girlfriend about it. She was like half asleep, and I was like, "Did she open the file? She saw the Flash. She saw Aquaman." I was trying to explain the whole movie. Like I kind of like excitement, right? It was definitely a little too packed. I don't think they needed Doomsday in there.
Yeah.
But like you said, for what Zack Snyder was trying to do, I think going against the grain and building a universe from the ground up, he tried from it's already existing and bringing it down to a micro level.
Yeah.
He did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Looks like we're all having connectivity issues tonight.
Yeah, what do they say in the comments? Release a Snyder cut. I guess I would love to get you guys' thoughts on that too, in regards to the two sides of the coin. If they release a Snyder cut, good or bad, what does that mean for the DC universe? They're not gonna continue that storyline. So I mean, but obviously we get, as fans, we get to see his vision. But then on the opposite side, in regards to we don't see it, put the past behind you. We got to move forward with the new slate of Shazam 2, Black Adam, hopefully Henry Cavill coming back as Superman, Robert Pattinson and Matt Reeves, Batman. We got to move, Wonder Woman 2. We got to move forward. We can't look behind. So I just wonder where you guys kind of stand on that whole release the Snyder cut.
Kaz, what do you think?
I haven't really thought about it much, but I am personally against the idea, only because I feel like it's not out of appreciation for Zack Snyder. I feel it's out of saving face. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like the fans don't want the movie to come out because they appreciate Zack Snyder's vision. I feel like they want the movie to come out because Suicide Squad was a fail, Batman vs. Superman was a fail, so they feel like, oh, well, it's because he was being stifled. So if his movie comes out and they're like, fingers crossed, it's going to be good, so it's like saving DC's face. And like you said, I don't think they need it because now they've actually started going on a upward trend. Like Wonder Woman, amazing movie. Birds of Prey, I quite like Birds of Prey. Not the biggest fan of Shazam, but I like the direction they're going in. So to Movie File's point, just look towards the future. I think Zack Snyder did a really good job, but yeah, it wasn't meant to be in the cards.
So I'm coming at that from a different perspective. I think they don't have anything to lose by releasing it now. I think enough time has passed, and we have new leadership at WB. So, we are cutting in and out tonight. What is going on here? Yeah, so I think they have nothing to lose. And the reason I say that is, one thing I think that this will do is better reinforce the direction that the original series was going in. With some of the reveals that we already know based on, Zack Snyder on Vero all the time, releasing this info, but saying, I'm forgetting the actor's name right now, but the general who was going to be revealed to be Martian Manhunter in Justice League, how Green Lantern would have factored in. Like, there were a lot of seeds planted that didn't have the opportunity to blossom. So it just seems like kind of a shell of what it could have been. And I think I just would like to see what that could have been, and that will help me kind of put the past in the past, if that makes sense.
Closure.
Yeah, I just want closure. I just want DC closure.
So just playing devil's advocate. So let's say Warner Brother, and plus two, there's been rumors that he needs an extra 25. I think he needs more than 20. I don't know if you know the rumor that he requested to have like $20 million to do the reshoots, which I don't know how you do that with actors no longer in contract. I mean, Ben Affleck is literally no longer Batman, so I don't know how they even, logistically speaking. But let's just say in an alternate universe, in a multiverse, they give him the money to do the reshoot, and fans love it. This is the best thing since sliced bread. Now they want Snyder to bring his universe back into the forefront, and that now stifles Wonder Woman 2, the new Matt Reeves film, and everything kind of moving forward. So I can kind of see. Again, to your point, put it on HBO Max, whatever condition is in. But like I said, if it is if it is so good, people want Snyder back. They want him to, come back to Superman and this, that, together. But if I'm Warner Bros., I'm like, guys, we want to go forward. We can't keep going back because, again, those storylines have no impact on the future of the the universe outside of Aquaman and Wonder Woman. And we'll see what happens with Ezra Miller's Flash. But as a fan, I would like
that ever gets made.
As a fan, I would like to see it, but I can see where Warner Brothers stands, where it's just like, guys, unfortunately, it was a messed up situation when it happened to him, but we got to run a business and we got to just keep things moving forward. But we'll see. We'll see if it'll be like the Superman situation when we get a Donner's cut, 30 years after the Superman 2. So
that's what I was going to reference. The other thing I think is they could creatively use this as a way to set up whatever they want to do in Man of Steel 2 and maybe have some self-deprecating humor in there. And depending what they do with the Flash, the rumor with the Flash has been that they're going to Flashpoint paradox it up and, completely retcon a lot of the stuff that they've been doing to explain why we're going to have a different Batman if they ever do Justice League again. And so they have a lot of opportunities because the comics have reinvented themselves so many times that they can actually just do that with the movies.
That transformation, that body transformation, it's incredible how actors kind of put themselves through that for a role.
You just stole the words right out of my mouth. I was going to reference that, and that's very Jared Leto-ish in what's the Dallas Buyers Club, as well as Matthew McConaughey and Christian Bale. They've all done that.
Yeah,
character actors. It's crazy.
That's aside from like Joaquin's like dialogue delivery, it's just his physical contortions. I saw a few horror movies when this movie came out, but that scene of him in the doorway when he kind of like goes through his like transformation, and spoiler, like he does what he does to the two people in his apartment. Just when he's like contorting in that doorway, it like left such a lasting impression in my head.
Yeah,
like, it was so freaky. He did such a good job.
Yeah.
Were you guys fans? Were you guys fans of Joaquin before this?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, from days from Gladiator to seeing him in M. Night's Signs to seeing him in other different films. I think he's just a fantastic actor, and I think I'm really excited to see if we and we can talk about, I don't know if the Joker 2 will be coming up at all, but I would love to see him and Todd Phillips link up again in another film. But yeah, I've been a fan of his for a while. I'm glad he was able to show the world now kind of what he's able to offer as an actor. Where is that? Is that laugh pretty high up there for you guys as far as the Joker, his interpretation of the laugh?
Oh, yeah, it's a tough one. I think what he's done with it, I think it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing will beat Mark Hamill.
Yeah, I was gonna say Mark Hamill's probably one of if not my favorite. Yeah,
iconic laugh of his.
I agree with that. Mark Hamill is just, I think, the top there. But I really like how they made this. Again, they grounded it in like a condition and gave him reason to have this laugh.
Mm-hmm.
So,
sexy jokes always funny. Have they released that at all? Like his little notebook, like where you can buy his notepad of notes. Buy it at Target.
I would love to hear more of like what he put in there, like what the whole
right.
The random stuff is.
It should honestly be part of like a steel book or a
right.
Buy it just it comes with his scribbles
and notes.
So on this, of course, we're not far into the movie now, but the prospects of Joker 2 was raised. Do you think that they should go that direction? Does this warrant a Joker 2, or are we fine with just a one-off like we have?
Team one-off for sure. Just in general, I would like franchises to take a bit of it. I kind of miss the days when a really good one-off movie could just come out, people could appreciate it, and then move on. I don't think it needs a sequel at all, especially how it ends. Like it kind of loops back into the whole Batman mythos. Take it from there.
How about you, Elliot?
Yeah, no, I mean, internally, I'm good with the one movie, but then I'm always that one guy. It's just like, creatively speaking, it would be so interesting to see them if they came up with something as interesting as the first one. If they were given from everything, when this movie came out and the rumors, they're just willing to give Todd Phillips whatever he needs to bring, a film back. And obviously, when you make so much money like this, then again, being that it is a business, they always look at those opportunities. But creatively speaking, I would like to see what they would do with it too, but I would obviously be more interested to see maybe Todd Phillips tackle maybe another character, whether it be a Deathstroke or a Lex Luthor or, any of those crazy, awesome villains that they have in the DC universe and see what he can do there. But it would be interesting to see if they were brought back, what direction would they go after the ending of this film?
So do you think Todd Phillips would sort of become a Kevin Feige or Zack Snyder, where he's leading the creative direction of this new slate? Because I know that's what he initially pitched.
Yeah,
the Joker was sort of like a whole series of origin stories for villains that are dark and gritty, and Warner Brothers pretty much told him, "Slow your brakes. Let's get it right first." And
right.
Success. So, do you think he's kind of going to be that creative vision, or he was just a one-off?
I think he could be. I mean, you see how this performed, and you see how the story came together. It's not like it was a flash in the pan, or just a weird coincidence that it made the money. It's a good movie, and it has an Oscar-winning performance.
Right. And I know, just like you were just saying, in regards to, he had a pitch to, I think it was DC Black Label, I think was his pitch, and just like you said, bringing these individual stories and bringing them to the audience. I think that he must have had some other different characters in mind if he wanted to kind of use this as a launching pad and see what other characters they can do a deep dive into, or a character-driven piece. So I don't necessarily see him as like a Kevin Feige-ish creative force, but someone, having his input on, what characters would be something that the audience would like to see. Like I said, I would love to see a Lex Luthor kind of standoff film and his perspective in regards to Superman, or, him growing up, or the one I was so disappointed with that it got kind of pushed aside was Deathstroke.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Deathstroke, and I love what is his name? Gareth Edwards is that his name?
Yeah,
Or,
yep.
The Raid films are some of my favorite films of the last decade. So I would have loved to have seen him do a film of that nature. So hopefully we'll see.
Yeah, that was a match made in heaven. Like,
Yes.
that is so disheartening that it
Yeah.
won't.
So, Elliot, going back to Lex Luthor, if they do a Lex Luthor film, is it Jesse Eisenberg or is it someone else?
And again, going back to our Batman versus Superman comic or a conversation, the idea of him being, again, Zack Snyder's interpretation of that universe was Superman in our universe now with cell phones, technology, media, and then even, Jesse Eisenberg's performance as kind of a Zach Zuckerberg type of character in regards to a multimillionaire who gives face. Yes, Mark Zuckerberg. Sorry, Mark Zuckerberg in regards to showing face, big celebrity, but behind the scenes, evil. Coming up with all the scheming and plans. So I like that interpretation. But again, I would love to see. I know the once people planted that seed of seeing Bryan Cranston as a Lex Luthor, that always just kind of stuck in my head, and I would love to see him, take up the role. But I wasn't as harsh on Jesse's performance as Lex.
The one thing I'll say, and we're going to do a watch party of this of Batman versus Superman next week, but one of the things that I'll say about it is the Ultimate Edition is a much better film than what you saw on screen.
Yeah.
And there are so many pieces in there that for the casual viewer, I think connect things better and explain certain aspects that people watching the original and theater version would just think, what is that? Or that's a leap or whatnot. But I love the Ultimate Edition.
Mm-hmm. Definitely fills in a lot of those blanks in the film, like the whole subplot of the Bullet and Lois Lane, and even showing Henry Cavill as the, being a reporter and going to Gotham.
Right. Actually doing investigative work. Yeah. So that's why I get the whole release the Snyder cut. Like, there's obviously going to be certain things that will improve the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Some of this is just really tragic in this movie too. It kind of bothers you.
Which is, I guess, to that point too, Joe, regarding the sympathetic nature of the film in regards to this character. And again, I love when directors, they don't just, Todd Phillips isn't saying feel bad for him or feel good for him or root for him. It's just kind of, you kind of, decipher how you feel about the character. But how did you guys feel about Arthur in regards to him getting picked on, him getting beat up, continues through the film, him losing his job, his relationship with his mother? How did you guys feel about the character and the sympathetic nature of the character?
Yeah, and that's one thing Todd Phillips did that really surprised me in this movie. I never would have thought that Todd Phillips would be the director to bring Joker to the big screen.
Yeah.
But it's funny going back to him. Like, he's not going to be a Kevin Feige or anything. He also is kind of a jerk. Like, he's just like that one guy that just seems very I don't know, like in himself.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Moonfall, to answer your question, I think it's both. That you definitely feel sympathetic for him, but kind of like near the end of the movie where he starts to believe his own hype and almost become arrogant.
Yeah.
With the murders, with the fame, with the notoriety, then I kind of feel like that the sympathetic nature shifts. It's almost like it's disgust, and I think it was done really well.
Yeah, and intentionally.
Yeah, and I think that's how you would feel with someone who's in that position.
Yeah. Welcome to our new viewers. Who's that? We got Aniolo. Welcome.
Oh shit, Aniolo.
D Riptide, it looks like Darius is on here. Welcome. Honestly think that Joker is one of the most important movies of the last decade. It's a mirror and a warning to society. What do we think about that?
Heavy.
That's heavy. That's a heavy comment there. And, to say it's a warning for society, to that point in regards to the one of the storylines that the film kind of, tugs at is mental health and not taking it seriously, especially during this timeline. I mean, this takes place in this, it was the 80s, early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, nowadays I consider mental health not to be as serious, but imagine how it was back then. So I think, not paying attention to people's crying out for help or listening to someone and having the funds to be able to support these people and overcome their illnesses is something that I think can be definitely a detriment to our society and everything of that nature. But in regards to the other aspect of it, of just like, well, this is what happens when you don't do this, that, and the other. You might have people that can, turn out like Arthur Fleck. So there's definitely a lot. It's a loaded question, definitely.
So we have some disagreement here. Bearded Film Reviews, tell us more why you disagree. We'll pop you up on the screen in a few minutes. I think this goes back to our DC conversation. I feel like this is more of a natural progression of how you would see realistically someone like this, transform into the villain that we know. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously they're not like falling in slime or whatever and all the all that crazy stuff from the comics, but
yeah,
it is interesting.
You mean like Electro in Amazing Spider-Man 2 falling into electric eels?
We don't speak of that movie.
Super.
Oh man.
Yeah. Or Sandman falling into a pit of science sand.
Craziness.
I forgot about that one actually.
Yeah.
Oh man. But I do think back to what Elliot was saying earlier, that's what makes that idea of a villain series really interesting, because there are a lot of villains in DC's universe that aren't like the Doomsdays and the Darkseeds of the world, but it could really blossom into more of a societal conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, even sticking with the Batman theme, think of Harvey Dent as Two-Face or a Penguin. Seeing him come up in the gangster crime mob. I mean, there's a lot of different. Batman himself. There's a lot of villains that you could dive into, and even Harley Quinn to a certain extent. Just getting her perspective from Birds of Prey. So definitely be interesting to see if they continue this trend, because as we know with Hollywood, you make one successful film, you're going to get a bevy of them after that. So it'll be interesting to see who would be the next character. And I guess, question for you guys, who would you guys like to see kind of get this Joker character-driven movie in the DC universe? Or even switching back to, Casual Moviegoer, if there were, let's say Marvel, they just took a shot to do something, knowing that Disney would never do this, but Marvel, the character that you would love to kind of see get this type of treatment.
No, it's a very good question. I think for DC, I've always wanted to see a really good Hugo Strange character.
Yeah.
Like I almost imagine the nurse from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Mentally challenged people. I think that could get really sinister. There was a certain level, and that could get really, really deep down. I think that would be really interesting. Marvel, I don't know. Like, I wasn't a fan of Venom. I know that wasn't the MCU proper, but I'm not a fan of what Sony's doing with Venom and Morbius, and they're planning, I think, Kraven and Silk and all these different supervillains.
Yeah.
Who would be a Marvel villain that I'd love to see?
Marvel, I'm not sure. I do agree with the Lex Luthor comment from earlier, because I think he plays such a vital part in so many of the stories that we see, especially in the animated films. He's always involved there. But I hope this relies on The Flash being a good film and how they develop that. But Reverse Flash and all of that, I think, is a really neat opportunity to like dive into parallels and the differences between us. So hopefully they figure that out, but not sure. That's a good question, one-off wise.
What do you think of Andy Muschietti directing the Flash movie?
It's out of the box for me, but I like it. I mean, I like out of the box. Look what happened here.
Yeah,
for sure.
How about you? Elliot, how about you, Ben?
Andy Muschietti?
Yeah.
I love it, man. Again, going back to just my love for the comic book genre in the last decade, you think of how a lot of the big studio companies are looking at horror directors, because they have that tinge of taking a small budget and making a lot and stretching it out. So, a James Gunn, or even I know the Casual Moviegoer wasn't a big fan of Shazam, but David F. Sandberg coming from the horror realm, Scott Derrickson before he was let go from Doctor Strange, but now Sam Raimi coming in. So the horror directors, man, they don't get enough credit, but I love that the studios are paying attention to them because they have a lot of great stories to tell. And I would love to see one day, we were talking about one-off character, but maybe whether it be a Jordan Peele or Ari Aster or a Robert Eggers or Jennifer Kent, like what would their take be on a superhero character with their
Robert Eggers,
dark twisted mind? What would they do and what character would they pick? That would be something that would be cool to see one day. But no, I like Andy Muschietti, and really, really interested to see if he brings any horrific elements to time travel and Barry losing his mother and things of that nature. And Reverse Flash is a very dark villain. So I would love to, I'm very excited to see what he does with that IP.
Yeah, this is going to be a horror movie of Ezra Miller choking everyone in
Let me show you what I can do.
He's going to be really fast at it.
So we have a good debate going on in the comments here, and I'll put some of them up. But after Bearded Film Reviews said he disagreed, we have Agnolo here saying, simply, if you ignore people with problems, if you push them, if you bully them, they will sooner or later explode. And his bearded, I'm losing you here, Cash. Here we go. Let's fix that. So I think it's a good movie, hands down, but this movie borrows way too much from other movies for this to be in best of a decade. Again, this is a great movie, and the performances are amazing.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, totally
fair. Yeah.
Quick follow-up to that, we keep bringing things like King of Comedy and Taxi Driver, and what we don't get is the importance of what this did for today. And now we are awaiting an explanation as to what this did for today.
Is this the cry for help?
Agnolo, we're here from you, man. If you have someone to talk to, we're here from you, my friend.
I do think that part of why this movie was so had the feel around it, and why people were kind of against it for a while, is because it is a difficult topic, and it does kind of shed light. We talked about this earlier, and it was brought up earlier, but on a very dark side of how society can be. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a mirror for society, but I think it definitely is a story, and movies tell stories, right? So you want to know, you want to see all the stories that are out there.
Exactly. And that's the risk taking that I think we all kind of crave for in today's Hollywood. Again, we all love our superhero comic book movies, but it's always those independent films, as they had mentioned, Taxi Driver, Kings of Comedy. During that era, those films were just as controversial as the Joker was. And obviously, Todd Phillips has no shame of saying that those films definitely, impacted the creation of this film. I mean, even much so that he wanted Martin Scorsese to be, an integral part in the producer role. But yeah, I think in any film, too, going back to Bearded Reviews comment, I think any big film that we love, and I think of Parasite of recent memory that won the Best Picture. I mean, every film has a little bit of hints of like, oh, you can relate it to this film, or it reminds me of that film. So I think every film kind of takes a little bit of something that they love, because a lot of these directors admire their peers. I know when Joe interviewed that director earlier today, he brought up Christopher Nolan. I love that he was like, Christopher Nolan is God. And, just to hear someone, a peer of his, him just saying that he loves someone that does his own craft and he appreciates that. I think a lot of these directors appreciate their peers' work and likes to put a little homage and a little tilt of the hat to those wonderful films.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, that was kind of interesting hearing that Christopher Nolan is God to him. But I think his overall point there was, Christopher Nolan is an original, and all of his stories are original. And he said he was looking forward to Tenet, and I think he echoed all of us when we say we don't even know what the story's about, but we're pumped for it.
Right.
So, yeah, he's Christopher Nolan is, he delivers every time. This is awkward.
God, yeah. Yeah. A scene is good when you're like cringing in the movie theater.
Yeah, I know.
I could not watch this scene. It was so physically painful to watch.
So, guys, we are at just telling everyone else out there, we are at the pogo scene. So we are right around the 44-minute mark.
And this again, going back to our conversation about a sympathetic character. Again, no menacing aspect, no murders being done, but you're just seeing a human being being, afraid and embarrassed, and can't get his words out. So I mean, that's something that we can all relate to, and have some remorse for Arthur right now. We've all been there. Embarrassing moments.
All right, so here we go. My kid watches Scorsese, but 95% of society is not us. They don't watch a movie that is older than 10 years, and they don't watch movies with subtitles. Good point. We heard that a lot when Parasite came out. I think the point there being that this movie says a lot more about society now than back in the day.
And one thing too, I know a lot of us have the audio kind of lower, but the score of this film too is, I think, is a fantastic character within this movie, and the soundtrack, and it won best audio, or not best audio, but best score for a film, right? Can't think of the young lady's name, but I think she was like the first female composer to win an Oscar. So that was and she well deserving, because this score was incredible.
And I think she swept all of the award shows with that award, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it is very impressive.
So I wonder what you guys think of in regards to just kind of on the going back to the finances of this film. This film, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know it made well over $1 billion. The fact that a standalone, let alone a rated R superhero comic book movie, was able to make $1 billion. Where did DC go wrong? That Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman couldn't crack $1 billion. Justice League made less than 650 million worldwide. Like,
yeah,
what is it? What do you guys what's you guys' thoughts on that? Again, a rated R film making more money than a Batman, Superman film and a Justice League film. Where was it just not a craving for the audience? Obviously, quality for some people wasn't there. But what do you guys kind of attest that big difference in box office for those films?
That's a very good question.
I think a lot of it's the unknown. I think a lot of people looked at the combination of, actor and director, and the controversy around it, and the fact that it wasn't connected to anything else that was going on in the DC at the time, and thought, oh, this could be something different, but I don't know what it's going to be. And the second point being that we're retreading a lot with DC. We've seen Batman movies, we've seen Superman movies. These stars, I mean, with the exception of Wonder Woman and Aquaman, when Marvel first started, Marvel didn't blow it out of the water with all of their movies. But they did focus on some of the smaller characters, some of the lesser known. And, I think that is a recipe for success to kind of build up to things. We haven't necessarily seen that with DC. So I think going this direction and focusing on a villain or an undercard character, so to speak, for the whole film is such a different take on any superhero movie than we've seen before.
Yeah, I think it may be also like that need for change, because if you look at Marvel, I think the only movies that have crossed $1 billion for them were the ones that did something different. Like Black Panther, you had the first all-black cast. I think Captain Marvel passed $1 billion because you had the minority for female audience. And then obviously Avengers and Endgame, because it's the big coming together. And I feel like Joker was that. It was it was almost like the rallying cry, like not all superhero movies need to be that campy, bright, comic goodness. Like there is a craving for that dark, gritty story. So I think a lot of it was people like going out to support it just to kind of get that message out there.
Yeah. I agree with that. Going back to the question earlier, and we're going to talk about what. And we're back, cutting in and out.
No.
The Batman villains, Arkham Asylum, centering a series, think about like a streaming series or something around the characters in there. where you spend each episode just talking about how another one of them got there. I think that could like really open up some opportunities to introduce some of the characters that we haven't seen before, or that maybe don't have the mass appeal as of yet, and ultimately lead to new focus or new characters in the movies.
So I have a question for you guys with especially DC shows. So I've noticed like with Smallville and with Gotham, the intent is to start a show of a humble beginning of somebody, and then as more fans come on, like thing with Green Arrow, as more fans come on, they want that DC connection. So the show slowly turns into all these characters coming in way too early. Like I remember, like Smallville, you had the Justice League come in, and they were all teenagers. Like I remember with Gotham, like I really liked Gotham at the start. Like James Gordon coming up, and then you started bringing the Joker in and all these different people, and I was just like, this has gone way past its original intent. So to your point, if they were to create this Arkham Asylum TV show, do you think it could stay grounded, or do you think after a while people will be like, oh no, now we want to see the Joker, we want to see him in there? Like, do you think that would happen?
I think so, and I think that's with that type of property, the companies are going to want to see those characters displayed and that IP out there. Smallville's an interesting. So I was a big Smallville fan, but it is interesting looking back on it because early seasons had Clark fighting like vampire sorority girls.
Yeah.
And then I think it was a third or maybe it was a fourth season where it actually started getting like, they're like, all right, we're not just going to do like villain of the week. We're going to have a, story throughout the season. And they started introducing more and more. And, Lois Lane didn't come until season 5.
Yeah.
So I think that's a successful model. But I think it just needs to be grittier today. I don't know what has changed in society that much, but I think the old like feel good superhero movies are not what we're looking for anymore. We're looking for conflict. We're looking for, death. We're looking for high end stakes.
Yeah. I'm just waiting for the Pennyworth TV show to go down that route. You start getting like an old Scarecrow and an old Joker coming in.
Yeah.
That ending of that show is going to be giving birth to Bruce Wayne, and that's how it's going to roll.
Like an end, yeah.
We're going to see the famous pearls.
Yeah, right. Pearls, those
for the umpteenth time.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
I will say, and this is getting ahead of it, but I will say that that's one thing in this movie that I was like, oh, come on.
Right.
The Batman connection,
yeah.
Big brother thing. I'm not gonna lie, man. Because I was thinking about it earlier today, and obviously I've seen this is the 4th time seeing it. It's a really interesting. Again, we're talking about risk taking, and again, directors and writers having a different take on these iconic characters, and just kind of thinking about a perspective of what if this was a particular Batman storyline where he does find out that the Joker is related to him, it's his big brother, and that kind of gives you a little bit of story thread of like why he can't kill the Joker because he wants to save his brother. He wants to get his brother back, right? It's an interesting. It's very again against the grain, just the idea again. Think of Star Wars, everyone's related to someone and everyone's a brother or sister, cousin, but it's an interesting idea of the them being related and the complete opposites of how one was neglected and what happened to him. He became an arch villain, the crime of Gotham, and then the other one that was nurtured and had the family became a superhero. So it's an interesting complex duality in the characters that I wouldn't be opposed to seeing that maybe in future films in the future.
I think the problem with that is you're going to get the people that say, well, that's not what was in the comics. That's not true.
Mm-hmm.
The famous Martha line from Batman versus Superman that everyone still rails on.
Yeah.
That stuff it's tough. I remember, my uncle's he was a big comic book guy growing up. And the number of times that he would see one of the movies and be like, they got that wrong, or that's not how it was. I'm like, it's an interpretation. Like, it's okay.
Yeah. And I mean, we're at that point now where we've had a not even just in the past decade, but I mean, even going back to the 70s with Superman and the 80s with Batman, and obviously the Batman movies in the 90s. But we're at the point now where it's like, hey guys, they've touched on a lot of different main storylines in the comic books. It's, you know, they can have some Joker, perfect example, a little bit of liberty rights to kind of switch up some things and add a new layer. Again, we talked about Zack Snyder and his grounded approach to Superman and kind of where he went against the grain. And obviously some people weren't a fan of Superman killing Zod or even Batman killing people. So I'm more acceptable. Again, I'm not a I know the people that grew up with the comics, they're diehards. That's like their Bible. So when you take things you rip a page out of the Bible, that offends them. So I get that aspect, but I think we're at the point now where we have to start to see these characters in a different light, different storylines, different, stories to present these characters in. So I think we're at that point now.
So let's get the group of people that are watching involved in this. There's a decent debate going on in the comments, but want to pose the same question. Where would you like to see the DC movies go in the future? Is it more of the same, or is it seeing them build on some new connections between the characters that we haven't seen in the past?
Well, I know me personally, I'm liking where DC's kind of heading. And again, I'm just thinking of Patty Jenkins recently saying that Wonder Woman 1984 is a sequel, but it's not a sequel like we normally think of a sequel of, like a lot of the storylines from part one blossoming and the seeds that were planted in part one really kind of unfolding. But it's taking the characters that we know and love from the first one, but putting them in a different story a la comic book. So I kind of like that DC is now starting to go in this direction where we're going to see these kind of, I don't want to say standoffs, but it's not always going to be connected to the greater good. But I mean, at the end of the day, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I personally would like to see a Justice League film. And we were just talking about, the suits wanted to have, they rush the team up movies. They're rushing. And obviously DC, hopefully fingers crossed, they learned their lesson. And we can get, 2, 3 or 4 individual films before we get a team up film. But I'm liking where DC is going. Again, that they are starting to branch off and say, hey, make a Joker standalone film. Hey, make a Wonder Woman sequel. Make a Black Adam. Introduce these characters. Make a Man of Steel 2. So I'm liking where things are headed with the DC universe. But like I said, I would like to see them eventually get all their ducks in a row and have a proper team up film in the future.
Sure. Kaz, what about you?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. I think you kind of touched on it a little bit, but more so, like, what are you looking for in the future? Do you think they should continue down this road, or?
Yeah, like, honestly, I'm just going to echo what Moviegoer was saying. We've had now, since Iron Man, so, like, over 10 years of superhero movies. Like, just push the boundaries. What do you have to lose at this point? Like, sooner or later, people are going to get tired of the same old because of the trend, right? Trends die. Trends go up. Trends go down. Superhero trend will die. The only way it will survive and still make money is if it breaks the conventions and does different genres and experiments with something darker, something grittier, some espionage, some horror.
Yeah. I'm with you there. And it seems like that's the general consensus that we're seeing here in the comments. Snyder's vision finished, but then see more creative freedom from the directors, see new heroes that we haven't seen before, and not Superman and Batman all the time. And I agree with that. I mean, even as a fan of both of them, I totally agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, especially after Endgame, I'm now becoming more critical with Marvel. I want them to do something different. I don't want them to follow that same template formula of starting a superhero. Like, I wasn't a huge fan of Doctor Strange, the movie, because I was like, yeah, this is like the Marvel mold. This is what you put people in, and then hopefully the second one it's going to be way, way better because they've established that ground and now there's experiment. But like stuff like Shang-Chi, I would love to see like almost like a retro 80s, 70s like kung fu movie applied to that Marvel mold, with the Shang-Chi story coming out. Like, I feel like that would be so interesting. It's so different.
Mm-hmm.
Lost you for a second there, but I agree.
Yes.
Sounding good.
It's gonna be one of those things where I'm like talking and freezing, and it just picks up the bad part, and it makes
Yeah, the director's cut of this watch party later. How about them getting Robert De Niro for this? I think that was a real surprise for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think again, not knowing the capacity of Martin Scorsese's influence on this film, but I think there was probably a couple phone calls made to get Robert on board with this.
Tell Bob we want him.
Yeah. So I guess another question too, going back to just the times that we're in and the success of this film, The Joker. Not that he would over eclipse Batman, but are we at the point now where the popularity of the Joker is kind of on par with Batman in regards to just a younger generation, either growing up with this film or Heath Ledger's Batman or playing the video games or seeing the animated film with Mark Hamill? Is it kind of a situation where, correct me if I'm wrong, when I think of The Outsider, think of Star Wars, I think people know more about Darth Vader than they might even know about Luke Skywalker. So are we at the point where Joker is kind of on the same popularity level as Batman, globally speaking?
I don't know on that one. I struggle with that. I think that the Joker always has been one of the most iconic villains in Batman's history.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure. Oh, that's not the one I wanted to put up there. I'm not sure that that's really. I don't think you'll ever eclipse the heroes that have been in place since Lord knows when, back in the 40s and 50s.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is the inconsistency of the story. And I'm back. 3 different stories of how the Joker came to be, and I think that that's a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Batman's story is pretty much what it is. We just see different versions of it, and I think we're going to see a different version of it next year. So one comment was Justice League Dark of Del Toro would have been cool, and I do agree with that. Just Guillermo del Toro wanted to do a Justice League Dark, which I think is definitely going to be in the cards in the future.
Yeah, I would hope so, for sure.
The animated film's a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, I would just love to see Guillermo get another stab at a superhero. Obviously he had his 2 Blade films, but I would love to see what he does with either a DC, which I think he gravitates towards more of the DC characters than he did with Blade. But no, I would love to see Guillermo get his hands on one of these awesome characters. Like seeing him with the Swamp Thing and Constantine and all those awesome dark characters, and the practical effects that he would bring to those characters would be awesome.
Did you see that Swamp Thing was the first season was acquired by the CW?
Yeah, which I don't know, and that's again going back to just DC and like, what do you guys like? I'm so fascinated to see what they do with the DC streaming service with this HBO Max coming up. Like, are they just they put all this effort and money and marketing? But now 2 years later, you have this other, like, is it just going to over eclipse it? Like, I'm just so fascinated to see what they do. They're just sometimes just like, they make some really interesting decisions. So
interesting was a nice way to put that.
Yeah. Like, I know Swamp Thing, I didn't see the show, but wasn't it more of a rated R version?
And like, people loved it.
Yeah. How's that going to be on the CW where you have Riverdale and all the other more lighty, fluffier shows? Like, I don't even know how that works. It's going to be playing at midnight every night when people are asleep.
CW After Dark.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, the one thing though that's really interesting about that is that the Swamp Thing character did show up in the crossover on the CW shows back in December.
Oh,
so
I didn't know that.
They did confirm that he's playing in the same sandbox.
Okay.
So I don't know if they have plans of getting that show going again, because it was really popular. The only reason it was cut, I don't know if you guys know this story, but there was a tax break given to the show to film in North Carolina, and there was they didn't get the proper tax break that they were told they were going to get.
Yeah.
And so the cost to produce the show skyrocketed. And so the first episode premiered and everyone loved it, and then they canceled it right after the first episode.
Yeah, that sucks.
And everyone was just, what?
So to that point, are you big into the DC CW show? Are you still keeping up with those? Because
I'm not.
Okay, I would say I'm unfortunately I missed that bus a while ago. Like I used to be a big fan of the universe, but it just got too. First off, an hour episode every week, 23 episodes a season. That's a job for a lot of people to watch all that content. I applaud all those people that keep up with that because that is extremely hard.
I liked Stephen Amell's take on the Green Arrow. I thought that was gritty and fun. The Flash is good.
The first 2 seasons of Flash, I will always say this, were some of my favorite TV moments in the DC universe. I love the first 2 seasons of Flash.
But the problem is it keeps rehashing the same type of story in a lot of ways with Reverse Flash, quite honestly, after I said that earlier. Keep doing. And I'm back. I think Supergirl is atrocious.
I couldn't get into it.
It's so, I don't know. It just was so off the mark for me. And then when they brought Tyler Hoechlin in as Superman, and now they're doing a spin-off Lois and Clark show, I don't think he's a good Superman. Because I'm into more of the, the real reality of the movies, the grittiness of the movies. And so once I got a taste of that, now seeing like the CW, like we're all going to band together and have fun.
Yeah.
That bothers me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was pretty much in the same boat. Like Arrow season 2, like iconic. Like I love that.
Deathstroke, yeah.
And Matthew Bennett's like fucking accent. It's not way too much. Like it's funny when you like start back up after a while. Like I remember, I think I stopped after season 3 of The Flash. After they had Zoom, I think that was the villain, right? Zoom.
Yep.
Yes, season 3. Yeah.
I stopped for a bit and I came back, and it's like his daughter is running, and like Iris West are on super speed, and like there's all different people. I was like, hold up.
Yeah. It's insane.
That's why I'm really upset about the news that is it Greg Berlanti that's big in those shows? Is that
and Green Lantern on HBO Max?
That upsets me that he's doing that one because I feel like Green Lantern needs to be done justice, and that involvement's not ideal for me.
It's scary to me too. I mean, I like the premise they're kind of doing with, I guess, what Marvel's doing with their movies and shows, maybe interconnective, and maybe they introduce a Jon Stewart on the show, and then you see him in the film. But yeah, Greg Berlanti is. I applaud him for what he's done on the platform of CW and where that where it's at. But I'm very scared to see what he does with this show.
He's made it a success for them, which more power to him.
Exactly, yeah.
But keep that on the TV, and now let me see what I want in the movies.
Yeah.
Wait, wasn't Diggle Green Lantern? Didn't they tease at that?
They teased it in the very last episode. Yeah, it was rumored throughout, and then they kind of revealed it.
Okay, so do you think he would be in it if Greg Berlanti was involved?
Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
But so Justice League Dark is in the works by Bad Robot. I do remember that.
Yep.
J.J. Abrams is getting his hands on some of the properties, which is, interesting. I feel like Zack Snyder and J.J. Abrams are now like on par with how polarizing they are.
Definitely.
But we're at the point in the movie where we were taking a fridge nap. So, as one does.
Right.
Gets hot out there, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the questions, what's that?
I do love the transition here. Like from that to the daylight shot that happens right after this.
It's crazy. It is a beautifully shot movie.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the questions I have for you guys, and I think Elliot kind of answered it with his choice of clothing tonight. What is who played the best Joker in your eyes? We have a lot of options here, and you can even count Mark Hamill if you want.
I mean, I can start. I'll definitely, like Joe said, I'm rocking the merchandise. I mean, I think, what Heath Ledger did with that performance, I think for the first time in a long time, the supporting cast member, the quote unquote villain, outshined the hero. Like, I think that was more, even though, it was Batman's story and, everything he was going with and trying to, make the White Knight out of Harvey Dent. Every time Heath Ledger on the screen, it just brought another energy. It brought momentum to the movie, and I just thought he did such a fantastic job. And it saddens me, obviously, that we lost him. But then, in regards to the fandom of it all, I would have loved to have seen what Christopher Nolan would have did in a follow up film to that. The Batman 3 to wrap up the trilogy. But for me personally, I think just Heath Ledger, what he brought to the role was incredible. And even though he was, Arthur Fleck's character, played by Joaquin Phoenix, won the award. But if it wasn't for Heath Ledger, who knows where superhero movies would be taken as seriously as they are now. So he's the godfather in that. So I love Heath's performance. But again, no disrespect to Mark Hamill, to obviously Joaquin Phoenix, but it's Heath for me.
You're up.
I'm actually going to say Mark Hamill. Because obviously Heath Ledger knocks out of the park. Like, I would say as a live action Ledger, but the reason I'm picking Mark Hamill is because I feel like, as crazy and as like the Joker is, I do feel he needs that strong comedy aspect behind him. That just makes him even more crazy. And I feel like Mark Hamill is the one who is able to make him silly, make him fun, but at the same time, at the drop of a hat, like, he becomes sinister. And he gets like the like the gargly voice, and he gets like the deeper tone. And I'm just like, damn, this guy. He's so impressive by just his voice.
Great range. Mm-hmm. I got to go the original. I think Jack Nicholson really set it all up for everyone, and paved the way for what villains could be. So he's always going to be it for me, but I do think Ledger, of course, as we're all saying, blew it out of the park, and that really is the general consensus here in the comments. Luke, welcome. Ledger, no contest. Heath, Ledger.
Everyone's gonna say Heath Ledger.
Heath Ledger.
And yeah.
And I mean, too, just to your point, too, Joe, with Jack Nicholson, I mean, just think about it. I mean, that was pretty, to be as successful as one of the greatest actors of all time, to take that role was very kind of different, Like, some people would, I mean, just thinking about how everything going on with people didn't want Michael Keaton to be Batman, but I mean, just the fact that he was able to play the Joker and play so different from what he was playing before is definitely something to be remembered by Mr. Jackie Jack.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Pretty wild. It would be nice to see like more of a callback to some of them. I don't know how they would ever do that, but like, I would love to see Nicholson just step back in with like his crazy ass right now.
You mentioned it earlier, man. I think that the Flashpoint, very similar to what Doctor Strange 2 can do to the MCU with maybe a Tobey Maguire appearance or Blade and more of the supernatural elements. I think the Flashpoint can have different moments where you might get obviously it'll be a CGI version of them, but I can see them pulling that card and having a Jack Nicholson kind of him Flash run through different multiverses. And you see Jack Nicholson, you might see a Jared Leto, a Mark Hamill of sorts. That would be really cool. I think there's a lot of possibilities they can do with that film.
Notice you didn't mention Garfield when you were talking about Spider-Man.
No,
was that intentional?
I was thinking of the connection with Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire that they've had, the 3 films they did. But no, yeah, I would love to see Tom or Andrew make an appearance in Doctor Strange 2.
The way you were just talking about Nicholson, I was like, oh my God, did he die and I missed it?
No. I mean, I was just referring to, we just haven't seen him, acting, and he's retired from acting so long ago. If he passed away, I think that the whole world would feel that. So I guess going back to our DC Marvel conversation earlier, knowing that Marvel is kind of putting in a reset on its universe to a certain extent, and then DC, as we can maybe all agree, is kind of changing the narrative a little bit and being more creative and allowing their creatives to be to get their vision on screen. 5 years from now, do you guys see? Because I think we can all agree, Marvel and DC is trying to play catch up. 5 years, do you see that pendulum and that weight being kind of evenly, or DC just blowing maybe Marvel out of the water in regards to the content that they're going to be delivering us in the movie realm and TV?
I honestly, I don't see it changing. I think, I I think DC is going to have some success with their one-offs, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But when it comes to Marvel being owned by Disney and being as large as they are, they have the ability to take more chances and deal with a movie that maybe doesn't quite live up to the hype.
Yeah.
But Warner Brothers, as we've seen at the first sign of any negativity, they're going to flip the script and try something new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was really interesting how they did this, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So you still believe that they're siblings in the movie?
What was that?
You still believe that are siblings in the movie?
Do I think that they are in the movie?
Yeah.
I was literally going to ask you guys that question. It's a really interesting story that they're playing on. I think you can see both sides of it. Thomas Wayne manipulating the situation and everything, and obviously his mom being called out, making up some stories. I don't think that they are related, but again, I like the idea of that possibility. But like I said, you can see the both sides of Thomas Wayne manipulating the whole situation and making everything up, that she's crazy. But then you can actually see that, she might have a troubled past. But this is really, I love when movies kind of pose that question, like, what side of the line are you on?
Did the dreidel stop spinning or did it not?
Right.
That was a really interesting twist in this as well to kind of pose that idea.
Mm-hmm. I wonder what I think he said no, but I would be interested to see if Christopher Nolan ever comes back and does another superhero movie.
I don't know that he would, because I think at this point, and this kind of not to reply back to reach back to the interview earlier, but the one thing that David Raymond brought up was the originality of Nolan, and I think that Nolan now has the ability to do whatever he wants and doesn't need to dabble in this sandbox.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to the question about DC and Marvel, I'd rather have Marvel and DC than Marvel versus DC, because otherwise people would get more aggressive than they already are. So I guess is that a pitch to have them work together? I think that's what
Marvel and DC than DC versus Marvel. I don't know. Yeah, I think maybe he's just saying just the idea picking sides. Maybe I don't know. On DC, but I think to that in that conversation, I think that Marvel wants DC to be just as successful, and DC wants them to be just successful, because if people get stale of the superhero movies, then if a DC movie bombs, then people might not want to go see a Marvel film because they have a bad taste in their mouth. So I think they're both rooting for each other. Obviously, there's a little bit of competitiveness there, but I think that they both want the genre to be successful, and they want the audience to want it.
Yeah. As Luke says here, don't compare them all the time, more so be able to enjoy them both. And I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
I wonder if there's anyone out there actually who just watches Marvel or
Oh, I believe there is. I mean, it's again, I know we all have our social media presence and we have our Instagrams and Twitter and all that stuff, but I think that there are people that unfortunately, Jay, they put their flag in the ground, and if you're the opposite of that, they hate it. They hate everything that the other companies putting out, and it's just the nature of humanity.
Fanboys. It's the same Star Wars fanboys.
Star Wars, yeah.
You love Star Wars, Cash.
Oh my god. That is actually, it can be brought back to the whole should superhero movies experiment or stay the same.
Mm-hmm.
Stay the same, you become Star Wars. And then all the fans, they just expect the same nostalgia trip.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done with the MCU we have here.
No, you're not.
I know, right? Well, I would love to know, when if that's the case. Okay, I was gonna say,
there it is.
That was a turning point. It disappointed to me somehow.
MCU's only getting started. That's
a good way to look at it.
I have said for the longest time, you know what I want to do? I think my bucket list is I want to sit in a room with the writers for Marvel as they map out what they're doing over the next however many movies, because it's just absolutely fantastic how they link all these movies and stories.
I wouldn't be surprised 20, 30 years from now, we get that documentary maybe of Kevin Feige, and just the behind the scenes of all the notes, and he's had someone record him the whole time or something like that. But
listen, the way the world's going right now, we have COVID-19, we have murder hornets. They just found like 3 new sarcophagi that they're talking about opening up, and it's probably not the time for that. Like, let's get that out sooner rather than later, because we don't know where this stuff's going.
Yeah. No, but it's great. I mean, it's so cool to live in history and to know in 30 years when people look back at Hollywood and look at what Marvel and Kevin Feige did, it's incredible. It is literally incredible. And I know we're talking about DC, and I hope that they get their films. They can be in that same conversation. But what they've been doing since 2008, and it's never been done before, and it's just incredible to see. Yeah. And I think, like Luke said, I think this is just the beginning for Marvel, just because, I love my movies, but I watch a lot of TV, and I think TV is going to be such a huge thing for just content in general, because, especially, this is a perfect example. The time that we're living in now, we don't have movies, but we have TV shows that are premiering on a regular base, week-to-week base. We have multiple seasons of shows. Mandalorian still on schedule to come out as it was initially before COVID-19. So TV is going to play a big part into the future, and I think Marvel's going to definitely benefit from the Disney Plus shows.
Yeah, I think Disney Plus, and we talked about this the other night when we were watching Solo on a watch party. But I think about, as an example, Solo. If Disney Plus had existed at the time that Solo was being thought about, would it have been a standalone movie that they tried, or would it have been a series, kind of like they're doing with Obi-Wan Kenobi? And I think that's the same with Marvel. And, if Warner Brothers Max or HBO Max, whatever they're calling it, really takes off and starts following kind of the same lead there, it's an opportunity it's a breeding ground for new characters and figure out what works, what doesn't work there before you throw them in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped after Endgame. Captain Marvel looked boring, so skipped it, and then Endgame disappointed me so much. Stopped after Endgame. Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Or maybe they mean to say Infinity War?
Maybe.
Game.
Well, I think, unfortunately, skipping those movies, I think there's good payoff in some of the movies that, you kind of have to see them all to really appreciate everything. But I do think Captain Marvel was mismanaged in probably the whole first or the whole first 4 phases. 3 phases? 3 phases.
3 phases.
My opinion with Endgame is she just was underwhelming, and they build up to her and had this big thing, and then I forgot about her, and then at the end when she flies in, I'm like, oh yeah, okay.
Well, it'll be really cool to see what Marvel does with her, because she's essentially the Marvel version of Superman in regards to being flawless and can't really have any flaws. So it'll be really interesting to see what they do with her moving forward as a character.
I agree. I think they're entering a new phase where they've laid their groundwork, and there's a lot of opportunity. So I'm excited. I'm excited for Namor, or is it Namor, the submariner? They laid that groundwork in Endgame with what was going on off of
the earthquakes and what kind.
Yeah. So I think we'll be getting him in probably Black Panther 2. Yeah, I totally agree. So I just think there's a lot of opportunity out there, and I'm hoping that DC starts seeing that they can develop a plan and not have to run away from it when the budget, the box office doesn't look great.
Right. And that's always something that always fascinates me, man. Is like when these films, I think of just going back to Zack Snyder, DC Universe, when he pitched his idea, and then they, I always think when directors get fired or writers get fired in between productions and they put someone else on, when was the miscommunication when they were pitching you the story 3 years ago and when it's now to fruition? I always wonder when that ball gets dropped and what decisions are made to be like, nope, you have 5 films, we're gonna fire you, and it's just always just been so fascinating to me when that stuff happens. How they miss the communication there.
It's a lot of money to gamble with. I think the thing with all the Zack Snyder stuff is he was planning on a 3-movie arc, essentially starting with Dawn of Justice and going through to Justice League. All right, I'm back. Keep cutting out. He had the family tragedy, and that resulted in kind of him stepping aside. But it seems like they just jettisoned all those ideas that he had, cut what they saw as fat, and let Joss Whedon get it all under 2 hours and call it a day.
Yeah.
Bearded Film Review says, "Damn, you missed out on my man Gyllenhaal from Far From Home as Mysterio." What'd you guys think of Jake Gyllenhaal?
As Mysterio? Yeah, no, I liked him. Yeah, I thought he portrayed Quentin Beck, from what I remember from the comics, pretty well. And obviously he's a great actor. And I really hope that they don't pull a phase 1 thing like, Iron Man killing off Obadiah's and, killing off the characters that they got in the first Thor and Captain America. So I would hope that they bring Jake Gyllenhaal back in a future Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, he's such a big name for this.
A one and done.
Yeah, he was really good. Guys, we are at the right around the 1 hour 25-minute mark. A little past that actually now, and we are well into it, I should say. We just got the tighty whitey scene with the not so tighty whiteys, and now he is painting his mouth with paint.
Joker thing to do.
Yeah, as one does.
Right.
Have any of you guys watched The Boys on Amazon?
Yeah.
I haven't watched that yet, but I've heard great things.
Me too. Yeah, I got to catch up on it because I know the season 2 is right around the corner, and I've heard really great things about it.
It is really, really good.
Really good.
Yeah. The only issue I have is I don't like some of the hand-to-hand combat in it. It's really jumpy, a lot of jump cuts.
Okay.
Some of the stuff they do with the characters, especially like Homelander, the main dude, the Superman knockoff, it's very interesting.
You're gonna have to repeat that, I think. Some of the stuff they do with the characters is
Yeah, no, some of the stuff to do with the character is really interesting, but like Homelander, he's the Superman knockoff.
Okay.
He is by far the most interesting out of it.
I need to check that out.
Yeah, me too.
What do you guys think of Sam Raimi directing Spider-Man 4? I mean, Doctor Strange 2.
That's funny.
We are getting to that scene right here. We'll jump back to this question in a second, but we're getting to the scene that was referenced earlier.
Yeah. At this point, too, just from a character arc, you're seeing the, if you want to call it swagger, the confidence in Arthur now. He's just kind of just like, he's feeling himself. He has his makeup on. He has his armor on, essentially. He's showing a different side.
This is going to sound a little weird, so prefacing with that. But I was doing a trailer reaction earlier for Shirley, the new movie with Elizabeth Moss, where she's Shirley Jackson, the horror writer. And, you kind of see her like unraveling through the trailer. And I made this comment, and I've been thinking about it since because I don't know how it makes me sound, but seeing those like psychological breakdowns on screen with such a great character actor like Elizabeth Moss or Joaquin Phoenix, I think that's just there's nothing better. Like you see someone, it sounds terrible, but you see someone falling apart, and you're like, damn, this is good.
His descent into madness. Yeah, I'm just like you said. Oh man, that's just going back to the Casual Moviegoer. This is a horror scene right here. This is a horrific scene. Yeah. That's just talk about just at the theater feeling like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, this
brutality of it all.
This is probably one of 2 shockingly brutal scenes in this movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. And I love this moment coming up too. This is kind of as Todd Phillips is kind of known for, the comedy. This is kind of a little bit of a comedic moment with the Arthur's friend there trying to get out of the apartment. I love that moment.
It's just so interesting to see Todd Phillips go from Hangover fame to
this.
I mean,
I've always been going back to me being a big horror fan. It's been so interesting to see these comedic directors, actors, a la John Krasinski, Jordan Peele, having these comedic backgrounds. They're known for making us smile, but they're making us cry now in the best way possible because of the fear and terror that they're creating. So it's always really cool to kind of see that switch.
This is actually really disturbing, where he's like, "What the F, Arthur?" And he just says, "What?" Like,
yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah, like, don't be silly. I'm not going to kill you. I killed him.
Yeah,
right.
You're being crazy. So Elizabeth Moss was amazing in Invisible Man. I really want to watch Shirley Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, reaction to the scene.
Yeah. This is like I said. This is Todd Phillips going back to his roots, throwing a little bit of comedy, a bit of levity in this dark scene.
It really is crazy seeing. Oh, sorry. Your audio is cutting out a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, you're back.
Maybe I was too far away from the laptop. But no, go ahead. I was going to change the topic. So.
No, I was just going to say it is really kind of jarring to see how skinny he is in this scene, and you really get it here with the way he's moving around and
yeah.
But all you.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, to move on the point about the comedic writers. Like, I find like a lot of comedy people are doing the writing. You know, like even like Beyond with The Big Sick, like he got nominated for an Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you shouldn't speak on comedic actors at all, especially when it comes to dramatic roles. You know, they know how to make you, like, to your point, they know how to make you laugh. They're aware of your emotions. They know how to make you laugh.
Yeah. And maybe that's the secret for success there, right? Like they know how to play with your emotions in that sense.
Yeah. I mean, if you guys follow a lot of those, big comedians, I'm a big, Eddie Murphy fan, and Chris Farley and all those, icons, Bill Murray, and transition to Hollywood. But they always you hear their life stories. They have really, Jim Carrey. They have some tragic stories, and they had to find a way to get out of that dark mindset. So it was to make people laugh. But a lot of those stories they tell you are really dark, but they find a way to make you, to find the funny out of the bad situation.
For sure,
it's very true. Luke is in Latvia, so it's getting light outside. He is pulling an all-nighter.
Nice.
And regarding the scene and the music, it just feels too peppy for the tone they were going for. I think it's genius.
Yeah, he's finally come to his character. He's like, dark.
This feels very NYPD Bluish, like that old television show.
Yeah.
Ooh. Did he do his own stunts for this?
Every time I saw behind the scenes, I always saw Joaquin Phoenix getting hit by a car. Like going back to the whole trust into the director, the whole symbiotic relationship between him and Todd Phillips. They did this whole guerrilla type of filmmaking with this film and just going all balls to the wall. So again, commitment to the character, commitment to the role. I'm really interested to see what Todd Phillips would like, what his next project is actually. See if he goes back to his comedic roots, if he sticks to
The Hangover 4.
Hangover 4, yeah, with Joaquin Phoenix. Because I think before this, he did his first kind of like serious film, and what was it, War Dogs with Jonah Hill and
Miles,
and a young Armiston Maris before she became popular, and that was kind of like his first diving into like a dramatic, more serious tone.
Mm-hmm. Gonna check his IMDb to see what he's got lined up, if it's gonna tell us at all. Ooh, I keep knocking my microphone over. I always forget that he did Old School too. I don't know why.
Yeah, having a gangbang.
And he did Road Trip. Road Trip was like, that was a fun movie way back when.
Yeah, I know a lot of people didn't like Zach Galifianakis and Robert De Niro. I thought that was a pretty funny one.
His next film is an untitled Hulk Hogan biopic.
Oh, he's doing the one with Chris Hemsworth?
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that. Huh. Very
Chris Hemsworth as Hulk Hogan is an interesting choice.
Yeah.
Hope that doesn't interfere with Extraction too, you know?
If he's I don't know,
Spoiler.
Yeah. Yeah.
So guys, we have 4 people watching right now, and I want to give away this copy of Joker if one can find it. So we have a Blu-ray copy of Joker coming to you. I'm really hoping that Luke in Latvia doesn't get this right because I don't know what postage is going to look like to Latvia. But the question is, in what year did the Joker make his first appearance in the comic books? First one to post the right year will win this.
Nice.
I love the makeup there, by the way, with just the drip
of the little tear there.
All right.
So I guess I don't know if this was a question a little bit later on, Joe, but in regards to, we don't get a Joaquin Phoenix Joker 2, but obviously Matt Reeves, his whole Batman trilogy, I think it's inevitable that we get a Joker, maybe not right off the bat in his first film, but maybe definitely in the sequel. Who would you guys like to see in the role next?
The role of Joker next.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I have to give that one some thought.
I got my person in the mix, and he's actually campaigned for it a couple times. Most recent campaign for it, but Lakeith Stanfield has been putting his name out there to play the Joker, like on his Instagram, and publicly has said that he would like to dive into that character. And it's kind of going to what Matt Reeves is going for in regards to just kind of switching up the race of these particular characters, like Commissioner Gordon being played by Jeffrey Wright, which has mostly been played by a white actor or English actor. Thinking of Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman, obviously with Michelle Pfeiffer and Anne Hathaway. So maybe a black Joker. Obviously, it would probably stir up a little bit of controversy for the true diehard, fans out there. But I would love. I don't know if you guys seen a lot of Lakeith Stanfield's work, but I think he is such a great actor and is a chameleon in all his roles, in my opinion. So I would love to see him play a Joker in a Matt Reeves universe.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and you have some agreement here. I think that would be really fascinating. I'm always for finding an actor that's going to bring something new to it. It's once again, you're going to deal with fanboys online, regardless of, what happens. But I'm all for that. I'm all for a fresh take.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get this out of the way real quick. The year that the Joker was first introduced, we have a few people here have posted. Let me make sure I'm not cutting anyone out. So we're going to start here. 1937 is incorrect. 1946 is incorrect.
Oh, man.
Twice. But 1940 is the actual year. Congratulations.
Nice.
To the Listmaker, I will shoot you an Instagram message. Or if you shoot me one, I'll respond to you. And we'll chat about that.
I wondered, did those people get those other dates from like Wikipedia?
Yeah. Someone at one point said, where is it? Any of you MFers use Google.
Right.
The Listmaker loves Joker. So, very cool. We'll send that out to you. You can enjoy.
Awesome. Congratulations.
If you're 18, because it's a rated R movie.
Right.
Listmaker, why do I believe that you're not 18, actually? Now that I'm saying that. In which case, we're going to have to go with the backup. I love how this part's filmed as well.
Mm-hmm.
Sinatra intensifies.
Are you guys excited for the Matt Reeves Batman? his whole take on the character.
I'm like a huge Robert Pattinson fan, but just like the photos that have been released, like the muscle car with the giant engine jammed into it,
Mm,
it's gonna be so cool. Like the Home Alone version of Batman.
right. You
I'm
guys,
into it.
yeah, me too. Yeah.
I
Robert-
think. Go ahead, sorry.
No, I was going to say Robert Pattinson in the role too. I'm really looking forward to see what he brings to the character.
Yeah, I am too. I think he's, we talked about this before, but he definitely brings a lot to the table. Oh, there we go. Gets pigeonholed into the wide release feel of Twilight. So, he's a good actor.
Yeah.
I'm also a fan of the rumored, what it's rumored to be based on.
Oh, Halloween.
Yeah, I think that's a really neat story to riff off of.
Definitely. And it's. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just because I'm very excited for Paul.
Oh yeah,
For who?
Paul Dano.
Oh yeah.
He's a great actor. Great actor. I always think of that, him and his role in Punisher, and obviously There Will Be Blood, and he's just a really, really fantastic actor.
Wait, he was in Punisher? He was in Punisher?
Prisoners. The Prisoners.
I was like, hold up. Did John Travolta? He was in it.
List maker. I'm gonna go by some context clues here. You started with, of course, I am being over 18. I am at the workplace making files and stuff. Someone asked you how the taxes were coming. They're being paid by my bills and my job at the office and stuff. So, with that being said, we are going to go to the backup, the second person that got it correct, which would be Bearded Film Reviews.
Nice.
So the Joker Blu-ray will be going to you, sir, and we will chat about that after this.
Well deserved, because I know the Bearded Film reviews, he's like on everyone's watch along, man. So I always appreciate him popping in, seeing his name pop up all the time. So yeah, he well deserved, man. Great, a lot of great content on this page too.
Yeah, he's always supporting all the other accounts. It's really respectful.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely is. He did a watch along the other night for a movie, and I can't remember the title of it right now. Oh my god. But it was so wild. Some of the action in that movie was insane.
Yeah. The Night Comes for Us, or
that's what it was.
Is it that?
Oh yeah.
I feel
I still have it. It's been on my watch list.
Yeah.
What's that?
I really wanted to join that, and I just completely forgot. I like poured my heart out to him. I was like, I'm sorry.
Some of it was really interesting. Some of the action, it was pretty breathtaking, actually.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen the movie before because again, like I'm a huge fan of The Raid.
Yep.
That is like that movie, the Netflix one. It's one of the most violent films I've seen.
You know what's funny? There are some pieces of that film where like it is jaw-droppingly gory and like violent, but you're like, man, that was pretty cool how they did that.
Yeah.
Okay. Impressive. This is a wild part of this movie.
Yeah. It's funny too. I remember reading that they didn't really get along at first, kind of with the their different approach to acting, and I think Robert wanted to do like a table read, and Joaquin's like, that's not my process, and they kind of butted heads throughout the behind the scenes, but I think they came to like a mutual agreement. They both love the craft, and they just kind of go about it differently.
He is a whack job.
Joaquin, oh yeah.
Joaquin.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's crazy.
Just a second, I'm gonna have to just go and get my charger for my laptop. I'll be right back.
Go for it. I have I'm pulling double duty here. I have the interview from earlier recording into a video, but it looks like
is it working okay like you thought it would be as far as the screen recording? And
it actually just cut off a little bit near the end. So I don't know what's going on with that. I may attempt it one more time, but I'm kind of annoyed. Otherwise, I might just try to strip the audio. Oh, I have another idea, but we'll try that after this.
That was a really, like I said, that was a really good interview earlier, and getting that perspective, that behind the scenes aspect of filmmaking. And again, he even brought up something that we even had a conversation about on Friday with the Solo, or Saturday, whenever that was, in regards to just, obviously we critique films and like them or love them, but it's just all the work that goes into the film. And he was talking about the critical response to his film and how the audience accepts it. It's very, really interesting to hear how a director takes in the critical, response, and how that kind of sets the mood, where you hear the negative feedback before even a mass audience sees it, and how that creates the narrative that, oh, this is a bad film, I don't need to see it. It's really, really fascinating stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That piece was really interesting, and it kind of reinforces like how I approach some of the reviews. Even if I absolutely disgustingly hated the movie, I will never give a movie a 0, because I just give people a lot of props for driving forward with their passion and being able to do what they set out to do. It just stinks to hear that, as the writer of that film as well, he wasn't able to translate what he had written totally onto the screen. For various reasons.
Yeah. Which, I mean, to this film's point again, with Warner Brothers and risk taking, to give Todd Phillips the liberty to bring this character to the screen, and in the approach and the way he wanted to do it, is just still crazy how this film was able to get made. Because I remember, I don't know if you guys were on board with the initial rumor of the film of they want to do a standalone Joker film with no Batman ties initially. Todd Phillips is going to be the director. Like, do you guys remember what your mindset was when you heard those rumors? Were you happy? You're like, what? I do not want to see that film at all.
I was so against this movie when it was first announced. It was mainly the timing. It was around the time Suicide Squad and Justice League.
Yeah.
So to me, it was just another indicator of Warner Brothers not knowing how to handle the property.
Yeah.
So I was completely against it, but then it was just the little things that won me over. Like Robert De Niro joining, Joaquin Phoenix joining. It's gonna be a Taxi Driver, Gritty Feel.
Right.
And, it was one of my favorite movies of last year. So it shut me up. It humbled me for sure.
I 100% agree with that. I think at the time that it was announced, I was like, oh, what are they doing? They have no idea what they're doing. But prove me wrong.
Yeah.
Definitely prove me wrong. So, going back.
I always feel like this scene is a little bit of a callback to Dark Knight with Joker out the window.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. So going back to conversation earlier about sort of where things are going from here, given the critical reception of this, and how successful it was monetarily for the studio. What do we think about movies in the future coming from DC? Are they standalones? Are they should they focus more on the villains? Where do you guys think they should go? We talked about it a little bit earlier, but
let me say, I think one of the biggest things that I think DC has always had an advantage over Marvel is they own all their characters. They have all their characters to their disposal. There's not a hold up with you can't use Hawkman in a film. You can't use Flash. Like, they literally have all the characters to their disposal. So I think the future, they can do anything now, especially with the success of this film. They can do a one-off every so often. They can do a big blockbuster film. They can do a team-up movie. So I think the possibilities are definitely there for them. And I'm fine with the kind of the route that they're going now. Again, if we can get another Joker-ish type of film in 2 years, that's fantastic. In the meantime, we get a Wonder Woman. We get the continuation of some of these characters that we've come to love in the past, and see where they go from there. So I think, again, I've been on the train for a while. That I think DC is starting to kind of get the pieces together, start to realize to trust their creators, let them see it through, and you get things like this, and you get things again with Patty Jenkins and Wonder Woman, the success for that, and on and so on and so forth. So, future's looking bright for the dark and grim and at one point confusing DC universe. So, I'm excited for them. happy for him too.
How about you, Cash?
Yeah, I feel like I'm in the same boat. I would prefer a bit more of the standalone darker stuff. It just seems like the recipe that works for them, even going all the way back to the Dark Knight series. But yeah, like I do think they have the capacity to make a big blockbuster, especially like Birds of Prey, how bright and funny and like artistic and creative it was. I definitely do think they have the capacity to go into the more brighter and lighter side of things if they want.
I agree with you there. I totally agree with you there. And I think they are getting some ideas for standalone or more origin stories. Patty Jenkins with Wonder Woman says she has an idea, or she's pitched an Amazon spinoff. So I'm not quite sure what that would look like, but more power to them. Let's set more of the stage before we try to like blow everyone out of the water with a team up.
I do find it weird though that they're making a spin-off of the monster Aquaman before like an Aquaman 2 or like an Bourne prequel or anything related to Aquaman. They get there's their own movie.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting, like the trench and all that.
Yeah, which I'm surprised that, again, maybe, and hopefully it doesn't, because I like Patty Jenkins and the creators, and I like James Wan, but I would why not do that on a TV level? The trench, or do Wonder Woman, the Amazon characters on a TV. So it'll be interesting to see if both of those films come to fruition.
And we're back.
Batman. It's not that Batman. Yeah, that's well said, Luke. I agree with you there.
So focus more on the character and the storytelling of Batman.
Have you guys revisited the Nolan trilogy recently?
Not recently, actually.
Yeah. Because I did this. It was probably about a year and a half ago. I revisited and watched them all, and they're still fantastic films. Like personally speaking, I think Batman Begins is a more of a Batman-ish origin story and just a film than The Dark Knight is. Again, I think The Dark Knight was really overshadowed by the Joker and Heath Ledger, which was fantastic. But yeah, I think I'm really fascinated to see, especially with Matt Reeves is saying that this is going to be a character study. We're going to get into the psyche of Bruce Wayne. We're going to see more of the detective aspect, the world's greatest detective in Batman.
How he started.
Exactly. So I'm really, I understand exactly what Luke is saying. I'm really, really fascinated to see what Matt Reeves did, especially after what he did with Caesar in the Planet of the Apes film. So if he was able to do a compelling story with an ape, a CGI ape at that, what he's going to do with a fantastic actor in live action with Robert Pattinson.
It's a very good point.
Yeah, unpopular opinion, but Christian Bale as Batman, I'm not going to say I was not a fan. I felt that there was something missing. I felt Bruce Wayne needs to have a certain level of charisma. I don't feel like Christian Bale brought that. I'm not saying he's not capable of it. He can be very charismatic. I just don't think the impression of the character had that sort of like billionaire charm. I felt like too moody all the time.
I'd agree with that. I really like him in the role, but I also see what you're saying.
Yep.
Whereas
This is just a great shot.
Whereas Ben Affleck, I do feel he had that charm. He had that kind of cheeky smirk and that kind of confidence that you would gravitate towards him.
Yeah, no, I agree there too.
Affleck turned out to be a much better Batman than I expected.
Affleck is one of the best.
So, I was going to say, man, so lived short. I would have loved to have seen, especially with him directing his own film and what they would have did with everything, with Deathstroke being the main villain. But good to Ben Affleck, man, to get out of that situation that seemed to be toxic from when he is in the mindset. So good for him to not, just because he would have came back and it would have been in his performance. We would have saw that he's tired of the character. It would have tainted his career. So I'm glad he was able to make that decision for himself.
Absolutely.
It's nice to see an actor get back on his feet.
Yeah, and I mean, he's winning, right? I mean, Armas Damaris is his girlfriend now. Like, man, that's a good end of the rainbow for him. Making it to the end of the tunnel, and you end up with that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'll be a shitty Batman for a bit.
Right.
We're gonna
Exactly.
And The Way Back was actually a pretty solid movie too,
Really
in my
good
opinion.
movie, man. Yeah.
I
I'm a
haven't
big, I really liked it. I'm a big sports guy. I wasn't a big fan of kind of how the sports aspect of the film is kind of put on the back burner, but I love the story for that character.
And that's good.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I was going to say it's kind of interesting with the sports piece. You know, I think it was billed more as a sports movie, and it really isn't.
Yeah.
But sorry, cutting you off.
I feel like Ben Affleck, he makes like consistent hits, and they're like one-off films, and a lot of people don't realize that. You know, like Triple Frontier, I found was really entertaining.
Yeah.
He did a good job. When he did Argo, that was
Freezing up again.
I personally liked him in Runner. I don't know if you guys remember that movie. Well,
I don't remember Runner.
Was that the gambling movie or?
Justin Timberlake. I remember I saw it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Justin Timberlake was Justin Timberlake, but
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
he was quite compelling as a villain.
Yeah, he is pretty solid. So, guys, talking about Joker, what are your final thoughts of this movie? You know, did it live up to your expectations, exceed your expectations, and does it hold up on repeat watches?
So I'll be honest, the repeat watch, I was more into our conversation. I may have to do another repeat where I actually sit down, but definitely exceeded my expectations because as we talked about, there wasn't much to begin with. It was more negative mindset going in.
Right.
So definitely exceeded. Really happy Joaquin Phoenix got the attention that he deserves.
I agree with you there. Elliot, how about you?
Yeah, no, this is again my fourth time watching the film, and it was in my top 5 last year. And if I were to redo that list, I think it would still fall in that top 5. Again, Joaquin Phoenix is definitely a phenomenal character, and Arthur Fleck and his journey was really well told. I think the symbiotic relationship between him and Todd Phillips really kind of shows on screen the trust there between the actor and the director. In regards to again, I'm a big fan of when movies are displaying something. Again, we had multiple conversations about mental health and kind of the message there. So I'm always a fan of when a superhero movie of that matter or a supervillain movie kind of brings that to the forefront. And again, this is living in history. A rated R Joker film makes $1 billion, and you have an actor that wins an Oscar. Yeah. I don't know if we're going to see that again. So really, really, really impressed by this. And it exceeded my expectations because I was in the same boat with you guys. Todd Phillips directing a Joker film. Like, that's why. And again, like what the movie Casual Moviegoer was saying, it's just like, what is DC doing? They're just throwing stuff in the wall and see what sticks. So again, it exceeded my expectations personally.
I totally agree with all that. I think the one thing I'll say is it's a very uncomfortable film in a lot of ways. And that is what makes it really good for me. I like that. I like making people uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. No, I like topics making people uncomfortable because I think that there's a reason why they're uncomfortable, and that means they're probably necessary for the story to be told. Yeah. So we are getting it's definitely great, but not the masterpiece everyone says it is. What's that?
I'm saying hot take.
It's pretty funny how polarizing it is. I think people, if people love it, then some people are like, calm yourself. Like, let's not go nuts with it. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but I think compared to what it could have been, it definitely hit all the right marks.
Definitely.
So, hey guys, we're going to wrap up here in a second. I'm going to pitch it over to each of you to just give one final pitch of what things you have coming up or what you guys are up to during this, fun time in our lives. So let's first head over to Elliot here. If I can maximize this.
Oh, are we still on? Well, yeah, I guess if you guys are still in the chat, but yeah, man, this was a fun watch, Joe. I really appreciate you having me on, man. I love doing these watch alongs and dissecting films with my fellow movie fans out there. But yeah, in regards to just what I'm up to and what I got coming. Again, like we said up top, I have my own Instagram page, so definitely follow me there. I have a lot of content on there. I try to post my video reviews on my Instagram and talk about movie news and interact with you all to the fullest. But then in regards to a lot of my energy is on my YouTube channel. So again, whether it be the new big Netflix movie or TV show. I'm going to review it, as well as having conversations about films I missed last year, a new series I started on my channel. And I do my own watch alongs as well, because again, I have such a fun time interacting with you all. And I have a watch along this Friday, actually, with Joe and Unyolo for the 5-year anniversary for Mad Max Fury Road. So I am very excited to see that film again and talk about it with those guys. But yeah, just check me out on Instagram at Movie Files, and make sure you subscribe to my channel on YouTube at Movie Files as well. A lot of great content coming up for you guys this week, so definitely check me out.
Sounds good. Sounds good. And we are going to jump right over to Cash here and let you say your piece.
All right. So first of all, do want to say thank you so much for having me on. I know I was a little ill-prepared starting off. I didn't even have a shirt on, so I'm glad I was able to do that. Honestly, I had a really, really fun time. Like I said, I wasn't even really watching the movie because I was enjoying the conversations more. So thank you so much for hosting Movie Files. I know we follow each other on Instagram, but I never like realized how knowledgeable you are about the whole state of cinema. So it was really, really interesting to hear you talk. But aside from that, for me, like COVID has stalled a lot of things. So like obviously my main thing is the new releases, but there aren't really a lot of new releases coming out. So, I'm trying to do more top 5 videos, a little bit more videos about me as a personality rather than just reviewing films. But since we did talk about Lakeith earlier, I do want to watch his Photograph movie that came out. So hopefully I get to watch that and put out a review for that. But again, yeah, my specialty 60-second movie reviews. I promise to entertain you with the movie reviews if you haven't seen any of them. Yeah, that's about it. And I host a weekly movie night with Extra Butter. They're a cinema-inspired urban streetwear store in New YorkCi. So this week I still have to decide on what the movie is. So any recommendations people have. But it's usually Thursday or Friday nights, but it's probably going to be a Thursday night. It went really well over last week being on Thursday. So yeah, I'll post something about that.
Very nice. Very nice. And just for my piece is I am still learning StreamYard, as you can tell, and I do apologize for everyone here tonight. The stream seemed to cut in and out here and there, but hopefully it wasn't too annoying. But keep an eye out for what each of us have going on our pages. Tuesday and Thursday, there'll be 2 more quarantine conversations at 7 p.m. Eastern. Actually, that's a lie. Tuesday and Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern, there'll be quarantine conversations. So I've been enjoying those conversations with different people through Instagram, YouTube, and now breaking into some of the film community. So check all that out. Check out Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. And you will see these smiling faces all around. So I thank you guys for being here, watching Joker with me once again. It is a very good movie to me. I agree with you that it's not the, I was enjoying the conversation tonight a lot more than the movie again, but it's one that I'll definitely turn on anytime that I see it playing. So thank you guys. We'll talk soon. Everyone else, have a great night. Thanks for joining.
Thanks again, man.
See you guys.
Thanks, man. Had a blast.